What if I told you that Adolf Hitler's last desperate gamble in World War II almost succeeded in splitting the Allies in half, and perhaps even forcing the United States and Britain to negotiate peace with Nazi Germany? The 16th of December, year 1944, the Ardennes Forest. Snow fell quietly over Belgium and Luxembourg while American soldiers warmed themselves in dugouts, believing the war was nearly over. In Paris, Allied commanders toasted their recent victories. To them, Germany was already broken. But inside that forest, more than 200,000 German troops lay hidden, preparing to strike in one of the boldest offensives of the entire war. This is the story of the Battle of the Bulge, the largest battle ever fought by the US. A clash that tested Allied unity, pushed soldiers to their breaking point, and unleashed the brilliance and controversy of General George S. Patton. The Battle of the Bulge was a turning point in World War II, but its significance goes beyond just the military outcome. What began as a potential disaster for the Allies became a defining moment that demonstrated the resilience of American leadership and the sheer determination of its forces. This battle was a crucible that forged military legends and sealed the fate of Nazi Germany. It showed how adaptability and an unwavering resolve could overcome overwhelming odds, forever shaping the final months of the war. By late 1944, the Allies had smashed through France. The Normandy landings had succeeded, Paris was liberated, and American and British forces pressed toward the German border. To many, the Third Reich was finished. In the east, Soviet armies rolled across Poland. In the west, Allied bombers reduced German cities to rubble. Hitler's empire looked weeks away from collapse. But Hitler refused to accept defeat. In his underground bunker, he plotted a final gamble, a plan as audacious as it was desperate. He called it Wacht am Rhein, Watch on the Rhine. The idea was simple: smash through the weakly defended Ardennes sector, drive northwest, capture Antwerp, and split the British and Americans. If successful, the Allies would be divided, supplies cut off, and morale shattered. Hitler dreamed it would recreate the miracle of Dunkirk in reverse, forcing Britain and America to negotiate a separate peace, leaving him free to turn back to the Soviets. Most German generals thought it was madness. The Reich was running out of fuel, men, and time. But Hitler clung to history. In 1940, his panzers had stormed through the same Ardennes forest, bypassing France's mighty Maginot Line. If it worked once, Hitler told his staff, it can work again. The Ardennes sector was quiet. American divisions stationed there were new, understrength, and inexperienced. Allied intelligence dismissed the possibility of a major German offensive. After all, how could Germany muster the troops and supplies for such a bold strike? But Hitler had been preparing. At night, German divisions crept into the woods. Soldiers marched in silence. Tanks moved under the cover of darkness. Strict radio silence concealed the buildup. By December, 3 German armies, more than 200,000 men, 1,000 tanks, and 2,000 artillery pieces were in position. At dawn on the 16th of December, year 1944, the forest exploded. The largest artillery barrage since the opening of the war thundered across the American lines. Shells shattered bunkers, ripped apart communications, and left stunned GIs scrambling for cover. Out of the mist and snow came German tanks, grenadiers, and paratroopers, overwhelming American defenses. Entire US regiments collapsed. Roads clogged with retreating troops and fleeing civilians. The German advance carved a massive bulge in the Allied line, giving the battle its name. For the first time since D-Day, panic spread through the American front. At the heart of the crisis lay the small Belgian town of Bastogne, a crossroads vital to both sides. On the 20th of December, German panzers encircled the town, trapping the 101st Airborne Division and elements of the 10th Armored Division. Supplies dwindled, temperatures plunged below freezing. Soldiers shivered in foxholes without winter coats. On the 22nd of December, German officers approached under a white flag and demanded surrender. Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe's reply would become immortal: nuts. The defenders held despite starvation, frostbite, and relentless shelling. Bastogne became the symbol of American defiance, a thorn in Hitler's carefully planned advance. Back at Allied headquarters, chaos reigned. Was this merely a local counterattack or something larger? Within hours, the truth was clear. This was a massive offensive that threatened to split the entire Allied front. General Dwight D. Eisenhower, Supreme Allied Commander, faced his greatest crisis of the war. He acted decisively. To the north, British Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery took control of forces holding the line. To the south, Eisenhower turned to America's most aggressive commander, George S. Patton. Patton was already fighting along the Saar River, more than 100 miles away. To most, shifting his army north in time to counter the Germans was impossible. But Patton stunned Eisenhower's staff. At an emergency meeting on the 19th of December, while other generals debated defensive measures, Patton calmly declared, "I can attack with 3 divisions in 72 hours." The room fell silent. To many, it sounded like madness. But Patton wasn't bluffing. Patton's Third Army was already engaged in heavy combat. Yet within hours of Eisenhower's orders, he executed one of the most extraordinary maneuvers in modern warfare. 3 entire divisions disengaged from battle, pivoted 90 degrees, and marched north over icy roads, in blizzards, with no time to rest. Trucks, tanks, and men stretched for miles. By Christmas, Patton's forces slammed into the southern flank of the German advance, racing to relieve Bastogne. On the 26th of December, after days of brutal fighting, Patton's troops broke through the encirclement. Supplies poured in. The defenders of Bastogne were saved. The German offensive began to stall. Hitler had hoped to capture Antwerp and split the Allies. Instead, his armies bogged down in freezing forests, starved of fuel, and hammered by Allied counterattacks. Once the skies cleared, American and British aircraft unleashed devastation on German convoys. By early January 1945, the offensive collapsed. The cost was staggering. The US Army suffered over 19,000 killed, 47,500 wounded, and 23,000 captured or missing the bloodiest battle America fought in Europe. German losses were even greater, over 100,000 casualties, and the destruction of their last reserves. The Battle of the Bulge was not just a defeat for Germany. It was the death blow. The Reich had gambled everything and lost. Within 4 months, Hitler would be dead, Berlin in ruins, and the war in Europe over. But the true significance of the Ardennes lies not only in strategy and tactics. It revealed the character of Allied leadership, Eisenhower's calm decisiveness, McAuliffe's defiance at Bastogne, and Patton's audacity, the ability to seize chaos and turn it into opportunity. It also proved the resilience of ordinary soldiers. Men who froze in foxholes, fought surrounded, and refused to yield. Their sacrifice turned the tide. And it exposed Hitler's fatal flaw. While he clung to the victories of the past, replaying 1,940 in his mind, his enemies had adapted. Patton embodied modern mobile warfare, flexible, fast, and ruthless. Hitler's rigidity cost him his last chance at victory. The Battle of the Bulge remains a story of desperation and determination. A dictator gambling on history, and a democracy proving its strength under fire. It was Hitler's last roll of the dice and America's finest hour in Europe. The snow in the Ardennes has long since melted, but the lessons remain. That victory does not come from perfect plans, but from resilience, from leaders who adapt when the world collapses around them, and from soldiers who hold the line when surrender seems easier, when hope seems gone. This is the legacy of the Battle of the Bulge, that even in history's darkest winter, courage and unity can turn back the tide.